Hello guys, welcome back to Statistical Academy. In this video, I will be covering types of data, what is a SAS dataset, column attributes for a SAS dataset, listing dataset and column attributes, how to create and use a library, using libname statement to read other types of data. SAS is the multi-database architecture. It can connect and read from almost all kinds of databases like Oracle, DB2, Excel, Teradata, MS Access, etc. Types of data. We can divide data into two categories: structured data, unstructured data. Structured table has defined columns with attributes that helps SAS or other applications to know how to read and display the values. Structured data include SAS tables, Microsoft Access tables, DBMS tables such as Oracle or Teradata, Hadoop, and many other options. SAS has engines that enable it to understand and read various types of structured data. Unstructured data does not have defined columns. Data might appear to be in columns, such as tab delimiter data, but to your computer, it is just a long string of text. Examples of unstructured data are text files or comma delimited files or JSON files and weblogs. There is some important information in these files, but it's not defined in a structure. You must import unstructured data into SAS before you can analyze or report on it. But SAS makes importing data easy. What is a SAS dataset? A SAS dataset is a structured data file that has defined columns and rows. SAS datasets have file extension .sas7bdat. There are two parts to a SAS table, a descriptor portion and a data portion. Descriptor portion contains metadata such as table name, number of rows, the date and time the table was created. Descriptor portion also includes column names and attributes. The data portion contains data values stored in columns. What are column attributes? For SAS variables, there are column attributes like label, name, length, type, format, in format. What are the required column attributes for variables of SAS datasets? Name, length, type. We have discussed rules of SAS names in the previous video. The next required column attribute is type. There are two types of columns in SAS. One is character, second one is numeric. Character columns can store letters, numbers, special characters and blanks. Numeric columns can store only numeric values, which can include the digits 0 through 9, a minus sign, a single decimal point, and E for scientific notations. SAS dates are also numeric type of variables. SAS stores date values as the number of days between January 1st, 1960 to a specific date. Dates before January 1st, 1960 stored as minus values. You can see it in the example. 1960 was a leap year. It had 366 days. So this way of storing data values makes calculations and sorting possible. Don't worry, there are numerous ways to display these values so they look like dates you can understand. The last required column attribute is length. The column length is the number of bytes allocated to store the column values. Length is related to the column type. Character columns can be any length between 1 and 32,767 bytes. And 1 byte stores 1 character. A column such as gender that contains 1-letter codes might have a length of 1. A column such as profession that stores the full names of professions must have a length of at least as long as the longest profession name. Numeric columns by default are always stored as 8 bytes, which is enough for about 16 digits. To list out dataset and column attributes, we use PROC CONTENTS procedure. The contents procedure creates a report of the descriptor portion of the table. The syntax is simple, just PROC CONTENTS and data equal, followed by the location and name of the table that you wanted to examine. The run statement ends the step. The first two sections of the report give general information about the table, including where the table is stored, when it was created and modified, and number of rows and columns. Let us focus on this table, the alphabetic list of variables and attributes. The names of the all columns in the table are listed here along with their type and length. The class table has numeric columns, age, height and weight. They all have a length of 8. We also have 2 character columns. Name has a length of 8 bytes, meaning it can store names with up to 8 characters. Sex has a length of 1, which is appropriate because it only contains 1 letter codes. Before we move further, we shall look at folder creation in SAS Studio. Please click on this button on navigation pane. Please click on folder and write a name of your wish and done. As we are working on a web-based interface, SAS Studio cannot access your local files on your PC. So the practice file should be uploaded into this folder that you have created now. You can think of a SAS library as a drawer in a filing cabinet. SAS Dataset as one of the file folders in the drawer. SAS library is a collection of files. SAS library can be created with the libname statement. The statement begins with the keyword libname, followed by a library reference or LIBREF. LIBREF is the name of the library. Library name should have 8 characters or less, and it must start with a letter or underscore, and it can have only letters, numbers, underscores. And finally, you provide the location or connection information for the data you wanted to read. The libname statement is a global statement and does not need a run statement at the end. In this example, the libname statement creates a library firstlib that uses the base engine to read SAS tables located in the folder. For base, we don't mention any engine. After the LIBREF, we will specify the engine. The engine is the name of behind-scenes set of instructions for reading structured data. There is different engine for each type of data SAS can read, including base for SAS tables, Excel, Teradata, Hadoop, and many others. Engines enable SAS to read these structured data files directly without having to do a separate manual import into SAS. Now I am going to create a library called firstlib, for which I will take location of new folder that we have created before. I am going to submit this. See, the LIBREF firstlib was successfully assigned. I will go to my libraries and check for it. If you wanted to save a dataset into the library that you have created, just keep libref.dataset. The same way for selecting a dataset from a specific library. Adding star before anything makes it a comment, which means even though you have selected and submitted for the execution, it won't run. It is for making comments to understand the programs. So here I have taken class dataset from sashelp library and saved it to the firstlib. In addition to creating your own libraries, there are other ways libraries can be created. When you start a SAS session, several libraries are defined automatically by SAS. The work library is a temporary library that is automatically defined by SAS at the beginning of each SAS session. The work library is temporary because any tables written to the work library are deleted at the end of each SAS session. This library is commonly used in SAS programs because it's a great way to create working files that you don't need to save permanently. The work library is also default library. If you don't type a LIBREF in front of a table, SAS uses the work library to save. The another library SAS automatically defines is the sashelp library. Sashelp contains a collection of sample tables and the other files. We use several of the sample tables in our course. In addition to SAS data, you can also use libraries to access other types of data. For example, you can use library with the XLS engine to read data directly from Excel workbooks. Remember that when SAS reads or writes data in a program, it must know where the data is located and what format it's in. This time the libname statements specify the XLSX engine, and the path includes the complete Excel workbook file name and extension. You can think of the Excel workbook as a collection of tables. Each individual worksheet is one table in that collection. There are two extra statements that you often use when you read Excel data. The first is options statement, a global statement for specifying system options. Excel doesn't have any rules for column headings, so they can be longer than 32 characters and include spaces and other special symbols. When SAS reads Excel data, we can force column names to adhere to strict SAS naming conventions by using valid varname equal to v7 system option. So this option enforces the column naming rules. So with this option, SAS replaces any spaces, special symbols in column names with the underscore and truncates names greater than 32 characters. So now we have an Excel workbook called Copy, which has 3 tabs: Demos 2, Demos, Vitals. So in Vitals, we have spaces in the column names. So we'll try importing this file into SAS. So now back to SAS Studio. First I'll complete the option statement to add valid varname equal to v7 option. This option enforces our SAS naming rules. So those spaces will be replaced with underscore. Next I'll complete the libname statement to connect to our Excel workbook. I'll name the library Excel file and we will use the XLSX engine. And then in quotes I'll provide the path and file name of the Excel workbook. So now I'll run those two statements. The log indicates that LIBREF Excel file was successfully created. I can go over to the libraries panel and find the Excel file library. You will notice each of the worksheet in that Excel workbook are now treated as data set that I can use in my code. I'll double click on the vitals table to browse and notice that the column have an underscore instead of space that we were having in that Excel workbook. Looks great. So now I'll close the data and return back to my program. Next I'll complete the PROC contents statement. I'd like to generate a report for the vitals worksheet. I'll reference the Excel library Excel file and the worksheet name. Check the descriptor portion of the vitals table. I have used PROC contents and generated this output. It is a good practice that at the end of our program to clear the Excel library so that we don't maintain an active communication to that file. So I can do that with libname Excel file clear. To follow the traditional SAS naming rules, we have to use valid varname v7 option. We should ensure to use it every time when we use Excel file. At any point of time, if you get any doubts, please comment below. We will check and reply. Thank you for watching and please stay tuned for continuation videos.